Welcome back to another issue of the Rave Story TV. Normally I do a massive introduction, and I feel when I start the massive introduction, he's going to stop me. Anyway, you got anything to say before I do your introduction, DJ Hype?
No. Well, you've just done it now.
No, I haven't. Right, so can I make an introduction at the top of my head, and then you can dissect the introduction and tell me if I'm right or wrong.
All right.
All right, up there. Look, I'm in the dock already. All right, let me. This man, right, when 1989, 1990, and I was explaining to my daughter on a podcast, for me, there's three kinds of DJs when they start out. There's the DJ like me who ain't got a clue what they're doing, got some tunes, maybe a little bit of personality. Someone sees in that person, oh, do you know what? I like them. We'll give them a go before the club opens. There's that DJ when they're starting out. There's then your person who's well turned out, got a bit of a business mind to them. They want to make, no, ain't you? No, ain't you? They think, yeah, I want to be a DJ, and they get good and they go out there and they put themselves about. Then every now and again, a DJ comes along, and it's very, very rare, who is leagues ahead of everyone in mixing, scratching, tune selection, and from word go, everyone who hears them in the game are like, mate, that's the one. And back in 89, 90, when this man was on Fantasy, when everyone was just cross-fading along, and when you listen back to it now, it's a terrible noise. When you listen back to this man's mixes, cross-fading away, it still sounds immaculately perfect. This man was destined to lead the pack back in the day, and still leads the pack. DJ Hype, welcome along. Are you going to dissect what I just said?
No.
Oh, he's happy.
Right.
He's happy with that. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Broken leg, but all right.
Yeah.
On the recovery,
Yeah.
1 month in. Still rodding my leg. I DJ'd for the first time in a month last Saturday at a festival, and was quite comfortable. Still not allowed to fly for at least another 4 to 8 weeks. I think 4 weeks short haul, long haul. I was supposed to go Bali this month and do a festival called Locust, but I can't go. So
How did you break your leg before we get going?
Scooter.
Yeah.
Not through crashing it. It was actually the handlebars fold down if you're putting them in a car, and there's a thing that locks, and I've had it 4 years. It's never. But it wasn't locked properly, and I was going along, and I wasn't even going fast. The handlebars went down. I went down with it, and when I first fell, I didn't even know I'd broke my leg. I thought I felt the impact on my back. I went down and backwards, and then you hear people shout, "You all right, mate? You all right?" And I used that, Del Boy falling through the bar in Only Fools and Horses, where he's getting up trying to look. I went to kind of straighten up, and then my left foot I used as leverage to get up, and then when I looked at my right foot, it was just in a totally different direction. And then when I moved my leg slightly, the whole bottom half just flopped. I knew it had snapped because I've seen on telly and people fighting where their legs have snapped, the sports people. So I knew straight away. But your adrenaline kicks in, so I was in pain, but not the pain you'd think, until. I was lying there. Then a couple of people from on the street just helped me, move me to the curb, and they did that quite comfortably. And then at my leg, I could see where the bone had snapped. But what I did is I laid down in the most comfortable position I could get, and my leg straightened. And I thought, if I leave it straight, it's the least damage that can be happened. Then the woman phoned an ambulance. And she's looking at me. She said, "They said you got to make your own way there." And I'm like, "My fucking leg is snapped. What do you mean make my way?" Now I'm starting to get a lot of pain. Luckily, a fire engine pulled over, and then they got out and were assisting me. But they were like good and bad, because they were all big geezers. They phoned the ambulance. They said the ambulance has to come if they phone them. But then whilst they're waiting, he goes, "I'm just going to move you from the side of the road against the wall so you'll be more comfortable." He's a big lump. He just grabbed me like a bear hug, picked me up. I was like, my fucking leg, because my leg, the bone is detached, so the weight of the bottom half of my leg is pulling. That hurt. Then he sat me down. Then I'm lying there with my leg has come to the bed. Then he said he's going to have to take the shoe off and the jeans. They want to see, because I had obviously my jeans on. So I said, you're going to have to cut the shoe off. Then as he's kneeling down by the side, I think he just went to adjust him and his knee whacked me right on the brake. And that was more painful than the brake. So I started screaming at him. I'm like, do I know you? Are you fucking... And then he was like, oh yeah, well I always do that. And then when I finally got the ambulance, I was telling the ambulance, the geezer went, and she went, oh, I always do that as well. And they said, no, they don't come if you break your leg or your arm.
That is mad.
And I'm like, I'm lying in the road with my leg snapped. I can't phone a cab. I couldn't move. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But then once I got to hospital, they looked after me really good. I was at the Royal London Hospital. The leg was snapped. They operated the following day, said I got to have a metal rod, which they did. And by day 3, I was walking on crutches. They make you walk. I had no cast or anything. And by day 4, I was back home.
Yeah.
And since I've had it, I got crutches, and it's very painful and uncomfortable, but it's slowly getting better and better.
Is it the longest you've been out of action from DJing in your career? How many weekends?
Well, apart from COVID, I've never took a month off, but it wasn't too bad. You know, like, I thought I was going to be out the game a lot longer.
Yeah, because I was surprised when I see, because obviously we've been speaking a lot, and I see you put up that you was playing at Tri-Fest, you was with Mampy and everyone.
Yeah.
And I thought, he's got out well quick, but you haven't been able to fly, have you?
No, and
you're always
Glory's the last few weeks and this month was more abroad than UK, but I'm fine. You know, like the thing was as well, when I broke it, you know, in the last few years, I've lost a lot of friends, you know, like, and family, you know, like people have passed away for far. So a leg break to me, as much as it's horrible, I was on the bus today with a little, because I was at my mum's, and I was waiting for an Uber. It took so long. I thought, fuck it, I'll get on the bus. But it was about 3:30, so you got all the school kids. And one of them had a little scooter, and I was going to him, mate, be careful. That's how I broke my leg. And he started, like, how did you break your leg?
Because you get more conscious, don't you? Because, like, remember when you said how you did it to me? I said, was you wearing it? That's the first person who's had their phone on.
No, I thought I turned the volume off.
But when you said to me, the first thing I said to you was, did you have your helmet on, right? And you said,
helmet?
no, I didn't have a that's what he said to me, right? And DJ Ron, I've seen him on his bike doing live streams and videos of him on his bike. Like, I'm on a bike, right? And when I did the London to Amsterdam bike ride, on the first day when we got to Dover, I come off my bike, right, after 80 miles, bam, on the top of it. And I had my helmet on. And the people who were doing the bike run said, if you didn't have your helmet on, you would have lost your life. The ferociousness that you come over. And when I see Ron, or even, do you know what, even if we're in the car and a cyclist goes by, or we go past a cyclist and ain't got an helmet, I go, put your helmet on. And that's what you're like with them kids.
Well, it was just the leg, mate. I was not going fast. The funniest thing, you know, like my mum, bless her, she talked to me like I'm 7. You shouldn't go on that thing, you know. And then she was like, maybe. Then she gets confused because she's got Parkinson's. And the other day she phoned me up, telling me that maybe it was someone having. She said someone's got a hit out on you. You know, like I said, Mum, I fell off my scooter. They had a drive-by, and she don't know. You got to be careful. You don't know who's coming. I'm like, no, you know, and then. Going back to DJing on Saturday, that was my test run, you know, and I was quite not anxious, just a bit nervous. Like, am I going to be out of stand for a whole hour? So they had a stall for me, and I got there. Swift was on before me. I think I got there. Nookie was so I got there about an hour and a half before I was meant to play, and I took it easy. I was sitting on the stage on a chair, but once I went on, I was, you know, I can stand now, yeah. I can hold the weight. I can walk around this room without the crutches, but I wouldn't go out without them. And I had no discomfort. I did take a strong painkiller just before I went on because I didn't know. Well, the last thing I want to do is be in the middle of a set and get real pains because it comes and goes. It's part of the repair. Tissues, the tissue around the rod and the bone. They told me you have to put weight, and as you walk on it, the discomfort is it swells. Yeah. So. But it was good.
It felt good to be back
I
out.
walked around the festival. The only thing I did, one slip up. There's steps, you know, like going onto the stage. and they got handles, but you know, there's just a handle with there's space. And I kept going up and down, and at one point I went to go down, and I didn't fall, but the crutch slipped out. And I was fine, but about 20 people run at me, bless them, to, hey, no, I'm all right. But
have you had the urge, like back in the day when people would bring all kinds of things out to do some scratching, getting your crutches and doing some
that brought back
scratching,
memories. I think I won one of the DMC heats with a snooker cue once. I was talking about that earlier as a gimmick. But the only other thing was I was talking to because GQ was on after me with Fab and Group. And he was on the mic, and then he come over to me. We were on the stage, and as he was talking to me, he accidentally not barged me, but bumped me a bit, and my leg moved at an angle where I got quite a shooting pain. And I was like, careful, my foot. And he looked at me and he went, you're from Hackney. I don't want to hear that. You're from Hackney. You're tougher than that. I said, all right. I said, I do live in Walthamstow now, though. I said, it's softened me up a bit. But you just got to be careful. But yeah, it's improving. I mean, considering 4.5 weeks ago, it was completely snapped. And I'm out, I'm out this weekend. I'm doing Orange. I'm doing the Rave. I'm being as mobile and active as I can. It's just it gets sore if you're on it for too long. Yeah. And at night.
But you're looking forward to getting back on the planes, isn't you, and going abroad?
I'm looking forward to I don't know about getting back on the planes. I'm not scared of flying. I just hate
the gigs you're looking forward to.
I love going places. I hate getting there. I always have. Like I once, when you travel, my few years before lockdown, my then neighbour, like, going on holiday again? I'm like, holiday? I said, you want to come with me, mate? Yeah. Like I could be at Fabric on a Friday night, fly to Russia the Saturday, back the next day, Then you could be in the week Spain, you're wherever. And I got so used to it that it didn't seem that far. Like it became, like if you said, oh, I'm going Tottenham later, then where are you going? Oh, I'm going to be over in Brixton. Then as your career sprout, you start going London to Birmingham to Manchester. Then you get an international booking. Then, I've slowed down purposely because I'm not the boy I was. And I found it, like when you look at a tour on paper and you're going to be there and you're going to be there, it's like, oh, amazing. Yeah. But when you're fly land, you're landing somewhere in the evening, you're performing at night, you're up early to go to the next spot. It takes its toll. Its time. And, people don't see that. They just see the DJ. Oh, all you do is that. And I'm like, my job is my actual, what I do, like whether it's writing music or DJing, that's not a job to me. Yeah. I love doing it. There was no job for that when I started. I just did it because I love it. But the traveling and that, the bullshit that comes in between, that's the work bit. And
Kev, the mad thing before we get right to the beginning? I don't know about you, but as I've got older, I enjoy the gigs even more than I've ever done. But the travelling gets more and more boring.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Even more. Do you know what I mean? But the gigs is like
travelling's not too bad if I'm with a group of people. If I'm with friends, UK, I've stopped driving. I gave up in lockdown. I can't handle the traffic jams. London, you can't turn left, you can't turn right. I used to know all the shortcut. I'd be a great cabbie, UK wise, but I hate it. So I consciously, I'm not fucking driving no more. And my mum's always like, you will get a car again. I said, never say never, but I don't need to. I get trains, I get an Uber. I don't want a car because I don't enjoy it anymore. Like I said, M1, every motorway, there's always some kind of lockdown at the weekends. M4 to Bristol used to be, I remember pre-lockdown, it used to drive me nuts. And then post-lockdown, always near Swindon somewhere, they'll shut it. Yeah. You've timed yourself not knowing it's shut. So I'd rather get the train. Trains run more efficient now. Anyway, I plug my laptop on. I can, sort out my music for when I get there. It's a lot more relaxed. I try and stay in hotels a bit more. Yeah. When I was young, it's like, it's just the fast lane. And then obviously with age, and also watching people pass away, people not leaving. I wouldn't say I'm not that healthy, but I eat good, cook right. When I'm on the road, I try and pace it, cut out, like well, I know when you're on the road, I used to call it, what's it, them pies, gingsters.
It's easy, isn't it? When
I don't buy them, but I always be, as long as I can remember, I never eat gingsters. Yeah. Even the packet looks like vomit, and you're stopping at a service station, spending £25 on crap. I'd go and buy food, cook it, and bring it on the road. And then all my friends would take the piss out of me. But when you're on 2 o'clock in the morning coming back for, everybody wants a bit then. You're like, oh, what's that? What's that? And then some of them started trying to do it, but most of them can't cook. But I like cooking anyway. Cooking, I think if I wasn't a DJ,
you'd be a master chef.
I don't know about master chef, but I would like, even now, I thought about it in lockdown, about opening some kind of, but I wouldn't want to be the one cooking. You know, like having, it's my recipes, you're cooking it, you know, the music, you know, like a kind of whole, I still believe I could do that well, but I didn't bother. And I also think the stress of running a business like that, it's not as easy as it looks. You know, like you look at a restaurant, you think, I could do that. And I think if you've got the right people around you to do it all, you know, like I just want to be the guy, what did you eat? Yeah, that's what I did. Hype Star, I did.
DJ Hype's restaurant experience.
Yeah, and you got the music, as you know, I could DJ there, you know, you could have theme nights. I'd enjoy it. You never know. I might do it later in life.
You might find an investor who says, come on, Hype, let's do this.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, I looked at my age, and I'm like, you know what? I want to enjoy my life. I don't really want to be a businessman. I had an interesting chat with Danny Donnelly in lockdown. He come and visited me, and we talked about. I'm still think I'm going to do it, like re-releasing Roller. You know, like the stuff I did there, like a little box set. We've never sat down and properly discussed it, but we have, but not finalising. All right, we're going to do it. But when I broke my leg, I did reach out to him and say, "Wait, you know, if you still want to do it, I'll do it."
I think people would love that, mate.
And I also gonna, like I say, I'm at a stage in my career and life where I want to do what I want to do. I'm not chasing the money. You know, my children are grown up. I have a house. I'm not you know, I come from humble beginnings. Most of my true friends are still, you know, like my friends I've had from childhood are still my friends, and they keep you grounded. They're more humble. I remember saying to Earl something about something, you know, like if we'd stayed friends, we would have been millionaires. And he just looked at me. He said, "What? You'd have 10 cars then?" He's like, "What? You're going to live longer?" And I just looked at him and hugged him and was like, "You know what? Thanks for that," because I'm not very materialistic. You know, I've had a night, even in the jungle heydays when first earning money, if you went music guys, everyone's got the BMs. I had a BM, but I probably had the low. I remember, I'm not naming, 2 different DJs like, "Oh, you should have the rims. Why ain't you got the thing? Why ain't you got the lowered that?" I'm like, mate, I never thought I'd own a BM. You know, like that BM to me, and I used to go where I grew up and see my friends and feel embarrassed about having it. That, you know, like as if I'm showing off, which I wasn't. But they sat me down. I said once about it, and they were like, "No, you work hard, you deserve it." And they know I'm not that kind of, look at what I got. You ain't got nothing. Yeah. And being in this game in the early days, or I wouldn't say that, it's probably 2000s, is when I started realizing that the people that were earning the most money in this game, forget DJing or producing or their talent, just as people, you know, like people that were right, that would talk to me about, you know, I got paid this much or I've just bought that. I don't like them. I don't want to talk. I'd say to me, I don't want to know about your money. I don't care about money.
Do you know what, Kev? As I got older, the car, like, I'm like you, I don't have a car. I don't drive anywhere, like, but in my 20s, 30s, and then I always had to have the best cars, and it meant nothing.
No, see, I remember. Don't get me wrong. I wanted to know. It was. I had not, when I bought my first. Not my first BM. My first, what I'd call, to me, it was like I went with Randall. Yeah, I think I was 25 years old. It was my second or third BM. It was when, you know, you got the classic shape. Was it the E? I don't even know. Then they brought out what was the new shape, and I bought a second-hand one for 12 grand. And Randall took me to the showroom, R.I.P. Randall, and he said, "I'll do all the talking," because I'm not good at haggling. I remember him going to go cash, and he was, and I bought this BM, and I drove out of there, and I felt like a success. You know, like I bought myself a proper car. And then when I was 30, I bought a brand new Mercs, and then after that, a brand new BM, 2 brand new cars. After that, nothing. I'm not interested. Yeah. And even then, I bought CLK when it first come out because I just like that shape. But again, I go for the, you know, 1.8, just basic. But that to me is still, and then I bought I went to buy a 5 Series in 2007, like for work, sensible car, and they just brought out the, the electric hardtop BM 3 Series. I didn't know. I went with Pascal to High Wycombe because that's where he lives, and I was looking at a 5 Series, and they had the 3 Series one, and I looked at it, and I was like, and then Pascal, bless him, was like, get it. He goes, you work hard. You don't. Look, I don't wear loads of jewelry. I'm not extravagant. Never have been. I'm quite, I want a roof over my head. I want to be able to buy whatever I want to buy, but I'm not someone who's got to have, dripping in jewelry, fast cars. But I've always wanted a convertible.
Yeah.
And because it was hard top, I bought that. But then, again, they're workhorses as well. Like I use them for work. And I'm not good at looking, like some people keep their car. My old neighbours, they used to buy cars that were about 10 years old. But they, like with fuck all mileage, like they looked after me. My brand new BM, they was used to take the people, go, you ever gonna wash it? You ever, like, mate, it's a workhorse. So the car days are done. Sometimes I fancy, so I get a car. I still might, but not at the moment. And one of my best friends, Marley Mao, he buys and sells high-end cars. And he's done that for a few years now. And if he comes and takes me out, he's always got, like, they're like 150 grand, like Ferrari. When I come out of hospital, he picked me up all electric Porsche. And, I didn't even know till I videoed myself. It's only when I got him, I noticed it had a whole glass roof, and he'll be telling me, he'll start, it's got the thingy this. And I look at him and go, it's me. Remember me? Yeah. He go, it's a
Sometimes
car.
I get in mates nice cars and I do think like, do I want to get driving again? And then I think to myself, no, because when you was younger,
as soon as I sit in traffic jams, I mean, the traffic jams have always been there. I remember in the early 90s when I was first, like DJing up and down the country in the sort of very early jungle, what was it 94, 95, around that way when, and I could be on the M1 sitting in traffic, and all of a sudden you beep, beep, it's like Kenny Ken or Rap or someone. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to play and blah, blah. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going thinking. We're all sitting in traffic at different, or you'd meet at petrol stations. Was it passing through the night? But I don't miss none of that. And now it's even worse, I think. Like with the 50-mile restriction, cameras everywhere, the lane closures, or they'll go down to one lane, and when you get there's nothing even happening. It's like, why is this lane even... Yeah,
London does my head in, mate. 20 miles an hour. That's why with all my gigs, I have to get the train. Right, I want to go back to your beginnings of what gave you the buzz for music. I want to go right back.
Well, I've always liked music from a kid. Like, music's part of, I think, especially when you're, if you have the kind of upbringing I did, living in Hackney in the sort of, my childhood, like 70, I'm born 1968. So, up until the age of about 11, you don't have much. You play out with the kids, but at home, like now, you don't have internet, telly, free channels. So music plays. And I just always liked a bit of music. My grandfather used to have a keyboard. He wasn't a big player or nothing. He was more of a painter. But I'd have a little dabble on that. And at school, like the recorder, the glockenspiel, the xylophone, guitar. I had guitar lessons when I was, I think I was 7. But, your fingers go tender, and I didn't like it, so I stopped. And what I found is I dabble, never complete. I do think now I'm older that I've got ADHD, and I probably had it, back then. So I'd always go into something and never complete it. But I wasn't like destined to do music at that point. I never saw it. I just dabbled in it. I was more interested in sports I was good at. And then that kind of crossroads, probably 11 years old, going to secondary school. And before that, I liked Buddy Holly. I liked Elvis Costello, Blondie, just pop music, I suppose. And then when we were 11, me, Shut Up and Dance, before they were Shut Up and Dance, Daddy Earl,
1978, 79.
79, I think, is when I start. Yeah, 78, I'm 10, so 11, 79. Start secondary school. I'm in the same class as a guy called Dexterous, you know, like Kings of the Jungle.
Yeah,
Dexterous,
yeah.
Errol Francis. We're the same age, the same day. Daddy Earl and Smiley, Shut Up and Dance. We're all in the same class. And we all liked ska, you know, like the whole Rude Boy, you know, Specials, Madness. The UK, that whole, that was probably my first getting into a trend. We used to go Carnaby Street and steal the Trilby hats and all the badges and the two-tone trousers. I used to have all the gear, Crombies, and more into it as a trend, like the music. But then, what's that, 79 to 8, round about 80, 81, there was just a complete, we just dropped all that like a lead balloon and went straight into reggae. And I didn't even have, I still had to go, I was going reggae dances in two-tone clothes because I had no money to buy new clothes. And back then you had, you know, one of the clubs that you like, but it was before you lot even went, Four Races in Dalston. I used to go to, it was then called, you had Four Races and around the corner was Cubies, and Cubies later changed its name to Oasis. These are all reggae clubs. Used to go to blues parties, which would be house parties, all reggae ones. School dances, like Brookhouse and Upton House used to have, Jar Tubbies would play there. Then later it was Saxon Sound. Like I've talked to someone recently going, imagine that now. Like, you know, sound systems playing at the school. So my whole, and everyone around me, we were totally engrossed in sound system. And first we were just going to listen. Then me, Earl, I think there was about 5 of us in our class at school one day just decided we're going to build a sound system, which we probably had no idea what we were doing initially, but we built it. You know, we begged, borrowed and stealed and made very basic, never played anywhere then. I think the first names we came up with was Transistor Warrior and Sticksman Hi-Fi. Then within about a year, we evolved into a sound called Selena, where we were now built the speaker boxes a bit better, and we were doing blues parties, and we were very young, younger than most people doing. Like there was kids that would say, "I got a sound," but they didn't. You know, like they had rubbish, and then the rest were the older lot that had proper sound systems.
So when you did blues parties, were they people who was having parties in their houses, or like Paulie Beef, they were breaking into both. You were breaking into houses
in Hackney.
As well?
You had people that were known. It would be a blues house, you know, like a man, usually some yard man, Jamaican man. They're either hiring out their house, so you usually we'd do the door, they do the drinks, something like that, you know. And used to be me and Earl. You got to understand, back then, you know, I'm not black. You know, like I stood out. I'm a little kid as well. I'm not that an adult. And I never had any racial issues with anybody, but they'd always be, who's this white boy? Where we get this? I'm a little kid. I say now, if I saw me now, you know, I'd be like, who the fuck is this? You know, and we had such arrogance and confidence. Me and Earl would always go to the house. Yeah, we're going to put bass bin there. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. Or I'd ride around on my BMX and go around Hackney looking for houses that are either derelict but not so derelict. You know, you could still do something there. Or say like you've bought a house, you've done it all up, you ain't moved in yet, it's empty. You know, we'd stake that out for a couple of days. Then I'd do my flyers and I'd break in round the back and we'd do it like that. Plus there was a place called Factory, which is near Newington Green, which is like a community centre. We did ones there. And going out myself, used to go, like I said, Four Aces, All Nations, Cubies. I lived by a club that it was called Willows. I don't know if I'm getting it right. Originally, it was either Willows, then it was Phoebe's, then it was Trends.
Right.
But it might have been Phoebe's, then Willows. I can't remember which way around. And again, these are just reggae. That's Amherst Road. Amherst Road. It's actually, before it was a reggae club, the Cray Twins used to go there.
Right.
And then my granddad
I know where it is. I know it. Yeah.
It's do you know where Amherst Road and Shackwell Lane cross? Right by Hackney Downs. I used to live right there. And when it became Trends, it was run by a guy called Glenn, who I used to go to school with, who was older than me, Glenn Trenner called it, and Danny, before they owned that club, they had a sound system called Casanova, Danny Casanova. Now. It's all flats now, it's all trendy. But I used to go to all these places, and that's where I got my vibe.
Absorbed it all.
Yeah, from a very, 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 very early stages of it, and grew into it from one deck and a spot. Like back then, it was one deck. There's no 2-deck mixing. No one was doing that. And if they were, I don't know where they were doing it. Then round about 82, I didn't go, but Earl went, Stoke Newington, Casanova Sound is playing. They went very early when they were setting up. Then he come back the next day and he's like, mate, they played this song. He goes, he was calling it New Wave. It was actually Planet Rock, but we didn't have a fucking clue. You know, it wasn't like a trend. Like this Planet, he just said it's like New Wave, but it was electro. So then all of a sudden we're now following a bit of electro. Plus Earl's mum lived in America, in New York. So he was coming back with records. I mean, he come back with Dougie Fresh the Show before it was here. He's like, this tune, you know. So the hip hop style started to creep in. And initially, we were body popping, not scratch DJing. I was still the one deck and reggae. And then something was on the telly where when the song Rocket was out, Herbie Hancock. Yeah. I think it was the Tube. And back then I was a bit of a burglar, and I had a turntable in my room and an amp that I'd burgled from some man, painted it all different colours so that no one would know it was stolen. And it was just telling, this is how you scratch. And I went in my bedroom and just put my fingers on the vinyl and was just basically doing that. Not properly, just. And then Earl's twin, Smiley, Shut Up and Dance, I was showing him and he's like, you should do that properly. And then we start doing it in the sound system. So then that evolved from me having the one deck to having 2 decks with no pitch and a mixer with no crossfade. And I learned to scratch before I could mix. And I was obsessed with it. It's not like I found something. I had everybody used to make fun of me. You know, oh, you with your turntable, what do you fuck them and all this shit. But I genuinely loved it. And then I was very inspired by certain DJs when I was just really learning. So initially, I think it was a guy called DJ Streets Ahead, who's a UK one. American, I think it was DJ Cheese initially. Later down the line, it was Jazzy Jeff and one other one.
Cash Money?
Yeah. I was looking for
Streets
that.
Ahead was wicked, wasn't
No,
it?
but Streets Ahead, he wasn't as good as those, but there's a set.
Mixing, yeah.
There's one set, I had a recording of him and it inspired me, you know. I've never met the guy. I don't even know if he's still around or where he's passed away.
He mixed some of the Electro albums, didn't he? But yeah.
But it wasn't that. It was just a live, him doing something somewhere live. And I had it, I used to listen to Westwood before he went all, all the way. You know, he used to talk how I'm talking now.
No, he really did. He'd become a caricature of himself, didn't he?
Thank you. That's what I always say. And but before, is when he did Night Network.
No, that's when he changed Night Network.
Yeah, no, because I was a fan of we used to listen to Westwood religiously.
LWR,
he used to talk normal. And he would play all, that thing, like now, you want a break beat. I'll Google it. I'll get that. Yeah. Back then, we're listening just for the, the
mad thing though, if you go back to Westwood tapes from like LWR from like 84, he would go back to rap from like 79 and 80.
No, his knowledge is still untouchable. His knowledge is amazing. It's just he become a dickhead. And I never understood that. And he was, like I said, it was that Night Network. When Night Network come, which was it 20? Like telly used to finish at midnight.
It was like 88, 89 Night Network, wasn't it? I remember. It was.
I think it was before that, mate. I can't remember. All I remember is being excited that he's going to be on it. Yeah, and then when it come on, he's like, "Yo, Bo," and he's got that, and I'm thinking, "Who the fuck is this?" Yeah. Like, well, what's happened? You don't talk like that. Like, I'm very into. Even in our game, you see, like being real.
Yeah.
Like if you talk Cockney, you talk Cockney. But if all of a sudden you're talking to me Yardie, when I know you don't come from that, I do. Like I grew up around pure Jamaican. I used to talk patois and have white kids say, "Oh, he thinks he's black." It's like, no, I don't. I didn't even know I was doing it. Like I once wrote in lockdown, if I grew up in Scotland, I'd have a Scottish accent. It wasn't an act.
I did what I did. You'll appreciate this. Like sometimes I'll put clips from the podcast up or stuff, and people will come on and go, well, why is he talking like that? And if you've come from Scotland and you haven't been around black,
but I see people, my point was going to be that in this game, I've seen someone recently talking about their boarding school upbringing and blah, 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 when it's like, I know. But when you're around me, you want to talk roadman. And I say to them, why are you talking like that? You don't talk, you're not from there. You know, like, I wouldn't change my upbringing, but I'd much rather have been born with a silver spoon in my mouth and had it all easy. Who wouldn't? But, you know, I had a conversation in lockdown with somebody who came to my studio who, I don't even want to expose the person, because they're not a DJ or anything. It was just, they were like, you know, like it's all gentrified now.
Yeah.
And they come down and they talk to me about, oh yeah, all these gentrified people living here now. And I'm like, one of them's you. She went, oh no, I'm not like them. I said, you are to me, love. I said, you're not from round here. And then she went, oh, I'd love to have grown up here when it was real Hackney. And I said, I don't think you would. I said, you're looking at the like it looks all cool and great, and I love talking about it, but I grew up around people that ended up doing, you know, if I hadn't done music, I've always said it, I'd be mad, dead, or in prison, drug addict, suicide, something, because 99% of the people I grew up around ended up down that path, and I was very much heading that way. So to grow up in Hackney when I did, I'm very proud of it, and I love that luckily I came out good from it, but it's not something you would choose that path. And you get these people that I'm not like them. And it's like, well, you are. You can't even see it. You're that blind. And I was saying to the person, you know, would you like to be raped? Would you like to be murdered? Where you're walking now, this was around Hoxton. I said, do you feel safe? They went, yeah. And I said, well, you wouldn't have back then. You would not be able to walk around wearing what you're wearing, you know.
Yeah, I go around places from like 35, 40 years ago that I used to regularly go to, whether it's Wood Green, Tottenham, Dalston, Shoreditch, and I just think, wow, it's so different. People
still got bad pockets,
but it's so gentrified.
Well, they've outpriced it all. You know, like, it's a very different place.
But it's mad you say about like people, like if you've grown up in a multicultural place, or your friends and like you're growing up is different to someone in Liverpool or Newcastle, or your outlook and your attitude and the way you talk.
When I was young, I had one attitude. I live in Hackney. Everything else is another planet. Yeah. My mum is Jewish. My dad, who I didn't know, I've only got to know in the last year, who I knew he's Iranian, Persian. So, you know, like, it's like kind of Jew, Muslim. You know, my stepdad was black. My sisters are mixed race. My best friends are black. You know, like, I'm a melting pot of everything. That's why I don't like when especially in the last few years, where everything's black, white, the white man this, the black man that. I'm like, I don't live in that world. I live in a human world. And that was the attraction to rave music, I once gave a speech about, you know, like, I don't condone any drug, but if you're going to take a drug, I even told my son this, take ease, because ecstasy is definitely more than the music that broke down. You know, I was watching thugs, you know, like, that would smack your face in for just looking at them, you know, having, you know, like, raving next to people that, you know, all different colours, classes of people. And I was like, I like this, you know, and
good thing.
I kind of forced myself into the early rave scene, changed my name to Harp. And I liked the whole...
Wait a minute, Dr. K.
Yeah.
Can we, before we go into the rave, let's educate people.
Yeah, I do. I said ADHD. I go like that.
Right. Well, I think we all get it as we get older and start noticing it. But we need my geekiness needs to go back, and I want the people to know as well. We was on your fascination with Cash Money, Jazzy Jeff, Streets Ahead, Cheese. Love DJ Cheese and Word of Mouth. So you was known as Dr. K before you was.
Well, I was actually originally with the sound system when I first started. It was Turvey, because you know
Turvey.
Well, my name's Kevin, isn't it? So Kevin Turvey.
Right.
I can't remember who come up with that name. He used to be Turvey the operator, mix me down proper. And I'd be like, you do what you call a boogie mix up, boom, 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 boom. You just off and on with the knob and the
So I want you to go so you've gone from reggae to hip hop. I want you to go.
Well, not from reggae to, but you went from reggae to reggae and hip hop and all other
soul, funk, boogie,
everything.
rare,
I mean, I always
everything.
liked all that music. Well, not hip hop. It didn't exist when I was first a kid, but when we were into reggae, we were into others. You still like soul and that, but we were playing reggae. We were initially a reggae sound, and then that evolved from reggae sound to one deck and however big your speakers are to 2-deck mixer.
Yeah.
You know. Earl reggae MCs, Smiley and PJ rap. I cut up everything from, I think early in lockdown, and the thing, he's like, first man ever to cut up 2 copies. Like, I don't know people that were cutting up reggae in 1984.
So I want you to explain to us all that period of the mid 80s into making your first, it was hip hop you made, wasn't it? With cartoon.
You said shit up and down.
Don't you put them words in my
sometimes
mouth.
when I write
it brings it up.
Yeah.
So I want to know the trajectory from the mid 80s into the first tunes you were making, into then discovering house, acid, rave.
Well, no, you got it a bit back to front.
Go on. Educate
I
me.
already knew about the rave stuff. What year? Oh, 87. 87, I was on a YTS in Old Street. You know, Old Street roundabout, going towards Turnmills. Nearer towards Turnmills then. I can't remember can't remember. You know, so, well, anyway.
I know exactly where you're saying.
I was on a YTS, which is a youth training scheme for young offenders, and it was called, run by NACRO, which is the National Association for the Rehabilitation of Young Offenders.
And what had you done? Are you going to tell us what you done to?
I was a petty thief. I was a burglar. I nicked a couple of, well, not even. This is I'm talking about. We used to steal cars. I used to have a key. I don't know where I got it from, but it would open any Mini, and I think Austin Allegros. So me and 2 of my school friends was at Woodbury Down would go at lunchtime and nick cars, and then not nick cars, nick what's in the car.
Right.
Then that progressed to actually trying to steal cars, and I remember going at night, not with them, it was other friends, and we were around Newington Green area, and I remember none of us could drive even. You know, like we're nicking a car, we're trying to push start it, and then this car pulled up with all police, well, we thought it was National Front. They were all white plainclothes, so we were all running. Anyway, I got nicked. So I used to get nicked for burglary and petty things. Yeah. But like I said, it became, by the age of about 15, I realised I don't want to go to prison. Yeah. Like,
so you was in Old Street.
Doing the NACRO, doing. No, you was asking me what I did to get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, NACRO was the National Association for Rehabilitation of Young Offenders, and I would there you could do photography, screen printing. I can't remember what else I was doing. Well, anyway, when I was there, I started making T-shirts for the sound. I used to do the flyers there. Photography, I loved, but I hated the dark room. Like, I found it very claustrophobic, and the light, you know, you got to be in this, you know, that's what I love now with digital. You don't need to do all that. But one day a week, round the corner is a thing called IMW, Islington Music Workshop. And I went there, and I was in a room with can't remember the drum machine. But anyway, I had a drum machine I never used. You know, I made a little beat, and then Smiley come down, and I made him rap. And then they were listening and told us they're doing some competition where you can win £1,000 of studio time. And we made a little demo. I don't have a recording of it. I don't remember it. And we won, and we were in the Islington Gazette, and we met the mayor of Islington, all this bollocks. I was even on, not because of winning that. When I was doing NACRO, I was on one of the news channels, you know, I was called Dr. K. You know, he doesn't drive cars now. He makes music or some bullshit. You know, like of someone turned good. And I used to teach a bit of scratching there, which was very hard work because everyone that used to come there never scratched in their life. And I gave that up. But the music was actually writing music was all based around this is a music workshop place. And so then we were doing kind of rap stuff initially. But me and Smiley would always argue. And what they wanted, even their image, I hated. They were very flamboyant. They were dancers, Smiley and PJ. Before they became Shut Up and Dance, they were nothing like that music.
Yeah, well, you're all on the record sleeve, aren't you? There's the record sleeve of the, what was it called? Cartoon Caper?
Oh, yeah, Puppet Capers.
Puppet Capers, sorry.
Tenants. They used to rap my tenants in the bluesies about the drink. And I remember the IMW were trying to get a sponsorship from Tenants, and then their comeback was they don't want to know, but if you change the lyrics to Can I, the drink Can I, we might be. I'm not doing that. I didn't want to do any of that anyway, and their whole image, like if you look at that sleeve, that's their thing with the cape, the sticks, because they were dancers. My mum used to make fun of them. She'd be like, "Is he all right? He's a bit funny." They'd wear polka dots. They were very flamboyant especially for. I mean, now no one would bat an eyelid, but back then it was quite, like the top where the top stops there. My mum once said, "Is he gay?" She went, "I don't care, but is he gay?" And I said, "Why would you say that, Mum?" She said, "He had his clothes on. His belly's hanging out." I said, "I don't know."
Well, they were showmen, weren't they?
Yeah, but I wasn't. I'm behind the decks, man. So I was very uncomfortable with it all, but I went along with it. And then it got to the point where we kept butting heads. And I'm like, you know what? You do what you're doing. We're still best friends, but I'm doing my own thing. And then they started doing their own little demos. And that, they used to lock themselves in Carl's room, because 53 Belgrade Road, they lived with their dad. And their house was pretty much like what the Players' Dungeon became. It's like the hangout, because their dad was cool. And he was very cool with me anyway. I'd go around there. We'd have the sound system in one room. We would jam. And everything evolved in that space. And they were making their music in their room, Smiley and PJ. And then me and Earl would be in the other room, like going, fucking listen to this shit. Because they were making some terrible music initially.
Right.
Then he turned around, I'm going to set up my own label. And I'm looking at him like, my view of having a label or anything back then was very like the corporate, you've got to have a big studio, offices. How you do it? Well, no, I'm just going to do it in here. And he literally had a sampler that wasn't even a sampler. It was a toy. And he used to hold it up to the speaker and get 1.5 seconds of sample time. He had an 8-track mixing board, and he would just have loops running that he would just be doing everything live. Like if you go and listen to their early stuff, a lot of it, it doesn't run in bar.
Oh, right? Yeah. So like sometimes when you play it out, like it comes in.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to £10 to get in, that clangs.
Yeah,
the actual beats go out of time.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him that, and he's like, everything he did was against the. If you went to music school, their music would never have been made. And that's why I love them for it, because they did a total 2-finger to everything. We're going to sell it out the back of a car. We're going to do it from here. And I was like, me and Earl were laughing. You're destined to fail. And it was the complete opposite, which inspired me more to because at that point, like we'd stopped working together as producers. I was doing fantasy radio. But I wasn't really I'd do the fantasy gigs, but I wasn't like on the circuit, a big name. But I was producing.
What year was the DMC?
What
year was you?
I was
when you was in DMC?
I was in DMC 87 and 88.
Yeah.
And then 89, I stopped entering because it was full of shit. And I entered the London Mixing Championships, which I won. And I was on MTV, Yo Raps. And I was Dr. K in that competition. But DJ Hype on the radio, because I was Dr. K doing in 89. I don't know if I started 88, but me and Earl were doing pirate radio on a station called WIBS, which was in Tottenham in Shady Grove nightclub, Bruce Grove, upstairs. And we were doing a reggae hip hop show. Then when I got the opportunity to go on Fantasy, because it was across the road from where I lived, and I would listen to all this rave stuff. I used to work at Burberry's, listening to Sunrise, and again, I had a very big ego then, and I was competition standard. Now I wouldn't rate myself in that way. I'm a club DJ and I can do a bit of scratching. But back then, you can't fuck with me. I'll battle anybody. And I'm listening to these guys and thinking they're rubbish. Not musically, but technically, And And I think I'm better than this. And then I'd go in the record shop. I knew most of them. They'd be talking to each other, not to me. You know, like, oh, I'm playing here this week. I'm playing here next week. I'm earning this much. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be one of the best DJs in this manner. Me and Ron. It was always out of me and DJ. Who's better? Because Ron was in TNT and I was in Heatwave. And we were the two scratch DJs in Hackney. And Ron was a huge inspiration to me because I had someone to back, and we were very different in styles. It wasn't like everything he did was different to me, but we were friendly rivals. I even got him. He did the I said I was on the Nacro thing. I got him on that, and me and him. He used to do TNT t-shirts with a dynamite, and I'd make the Heatwave, and we were just mates. I'd go around his house, and he'd be cutting up. You know, he didn't even have Technics then. He used to have, I can't remember the deck, but his style was very different to mine, and probably more entertaining as well. You know, like, because I don't know, I loved him back then. Like, I found it very inspiring. And then we'd have little digs at each other about, can you do the thing? There was a track called, what was it? Was it Real Roxanne and Howie T?
Oh, Real Rock, Bang Zoom.
Bang, yeah. But there's a Howie T scratch. And I remember me and him talking. It's like, can you do the Howie T scratch? I was like, yeah. He's like, can you? He's like, yeah. We both couldn't, you know. And then I went away. I practiced my ass off. And then I was doing a blues in Dunlace Road. And back then, it was still more reggae. And then I'd do a little hip hop bit where a lot of the ravers, they don't want to hear that, you know, but I would do it anyway. And I think he came in the dance and I was doing it a bit. And then he go, oh, you could do it. And I went, yeah, but I said, when I told you I was lying. And I think I might be remembering, and I'm sure he said to say, yeah, I was lying too, but we could both do it in the end. But again, like I said, different styles, but I'm very influenced by him. And in that, what era are we looking at? 80, the blues day was at 80s, probably 84 to 87 is the blues era.
I love that you name check, Ron. I love that.
No, I have to. I mean, now he's doing his own thing. He's got his podcast. But there was a period where, you know, like in the jungle scene where he left it for quite a few years. And I'd talk to people that had never heard of it. And I'm like, mate, you need to do your homework. Same with Shut Up and Dance.
Yeah, because I always go back to like Ron and Mike West and some of their
Beat
sets.
Freak was more like Beat Freak back then, not now. I love the guy. Like but back then he's Tottenham.
Yeah,
and he's Beat Freak, soul sound to me, and you know he's just good looking. You know he's we did Croatia a few years ago, and he said to me, "Have I got any Beat Freak flyers?" And I said, "Mate, I used to hate your guts." I said, like, from a set, like everyone was my only Ron really and TNT because I respected them a lot, and I think it's Eugene who used to be, I can't remember the name, because. I said we were younger. Ron was my age, but the sound, most of the people who owned that sound were older. You know, like, but I respect them. It was what we used to go and listen to them. Beat Freak was more Tottenham sound. Again, big, like, not taking nothing, but at that time, at that age, they're like the enemy. They're Tottenham. I used to call Tottenham country. You know, like, I mean, we did the odd event. We used to do blueses in Tottenham, opposite Tesco's in Tottenham, a house there. But sound system is very territorial and tribal, a bit like football teams, you know, sound system. But yeah, I respect Mike West and Beat Freak as well. But why I name check Ron so much because he was a scratch DJ. So I was like, yeah,
I never knew that you'd won that competition as Dr. K whilst being hype. For some reason, in my head, I always knew about your DMC. The
DMC days, to be honest, the first one I went in for. I went to Bournemouth for 1987, and when I got there, they had a deck there, you know, like the club set, a big mixer like this with no crossfade. I come nowhere, it was rubbish. I couldn't even do anything, and I was gutted. The following year, I did one in Streatham. I did one heat there. It was me, Pogo, Carl Cox, I think Mark Ryder. I can't remember. No, it wasn't Mark Ryder at that one. What happened is on that one, I didn't come anywhere. I think Carl Cox and Pogo, and it wasn't because I just didn't do enough. I didn't realize I never entered a competition, so I did a bit. Then when I watched what not so much, Carl Cox was mixing. You remember it's Disco Mix Club, original DMC. He's not scratch DJ, he's mixing. And I was totally not impressed with him because I'm like, you know, like as a club DJ, I realized mixing is very important. But as a battle DJ, I was like, you know, like I think he mixed, I might be wrong, you know, like John Travolta, I got you, something like that over a house tune.
A lot
and
of
they're
people
like, oh,
used
he
to do
mixed
stuff
that with
like
that.
that,
Yeah, but I'm like, that's just mixing two tunes together. There's nothing to me. You know, obviously I grew to respect and love what he does. And I've got nothing bad to say about Carl Cox. But on that day, you know,
Can I tell you something quick?
No,
you say what you're going to say, and I'm going to tell you something Carl Cox
you see
said
how
to
he
me.
cuts in?
No, I didn't mean to do that.
No, but then I'm going to forget what I'm going to say now. I've forgotten that. No,
you ain't. Go on,
I'm not doing it now.
No, go on, go on. I'm going to tell you something.
No, in that competition, you know, like it was a bit of an eye-opener for me because I went there quite arrogantly thinking I'm just going to walk it, you know, and Pogo, it's the first time I see Pogo perform. Big up Pogo, he's still doing it. I'll tell you an interesting story about him that I only recently found out. Remember to ask me that because
I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to tell me something.
He did things that I didn't do on the night, but I was more than capable of doing. So when I left, it was like I was all gutted that I should have done a lot more. So then I re-entered and won. Where did I win? Can't remember what one I won. And I was through to the South England finals anyway. And in the South England finals, I think, I'm trying to remember if I entered 2 or 3 years in a row. Because in my head it's 2 years, but then my stories don't add up. Because there's one heat I entered where I was told by someone in the day that it don't matter what you do, mate. Pogo's going to come first, and this other guy, Des Mitchell's going to come second. Right. And on the day, and Pogo deserved to win that day. Like I'm the first to, you know, I'm not a bad, if I lose fair and square, you know, respect is due. But if I think, then this other guy, Des Mitchell, again, who big up Des, wherever you are, love you. But at that time, he done his thing. He was a mixed DJ. He wasn't really
cutting
up. I think he used to do BCM, you know, like a commercial.
Yeah. And he went on to make some trance music as well.
But a good guy, again. But on that he fucked up and they let him start again. Anyway, they got put through and I thought I was easily second, not necessarily first. And then there was another heat where I got through. The last heat I entered was the South England finals. I'd won the previous heat. And I think it might have been Regal's Uxbridge, but I'm not 100%. Or what's the one in Ealing, Broadway?
Ealing Broadway.
Broadway Boulevard.
Right, Broadway. Yeah, remember
There's
that
one
place.
of those two clubs.
Yeah.
I went there with about 20 Hackney man, like all my people. And it was the last heat I entered. And I, again, didn't think I won, but I thought I did more than enough to become second. And then they announced that the competition's so good, they're going to put 3 through. So then all my lot are like, well, you're definitely through. You're easily third at worst, you know. And I'm standing there and I was on the stage and then they announced the winners and I weren't announced. And I'm sitting there, standing there feeling a bit shit. Then all of a sudden I just felt something go past my head. And when I looked, all my lot just started throwing bottles and shit at the judges and at the stage. And I felt a lot better about it. And then we all walked out like, you know, like no security come. If I remember, well, we didn't get any angry. We just walked out, and I felt really, you know, like that. I wouldn't say I felt good, but I felt better about it. I wasn't so bothered about losing. I was like, fuck them. You know what I mean? Then what happened is they had a mic competition, freestyling, and I got Earl to enter, and we went to Chippenham. I can't remember the nightclub. And when I got up there, I don't know how long this was after this incident. I don't know. It couldn't have been that long because when I went up there, all the people to do with DMC brought me into an office and they sat me down in the back room and they're like, there's not going to be a repeat performance of last time. And I said, well, if it ain't fixed, you know what I mean? And then Earl, I can't remember if he won the heat and when I was cutting up for him whilst he rapped. And when they were going to announce the winner, I remember looking into the crowd and in the middle, there was like a line of about 20 of my mates all standing there with their bottles like that, just waiting. Like because Earl did deserve, again, if we don't deserve it, my lot would tell me.
Yeah.
Like I won one heat where I got cut. I've always told this story. I won, you know, because I'm known for being quite brutal in my If I'm giving you advice or criticism about your music, to me, it's not brutal. I'm just being honest. That's what you've asked for. But to some people can't handle that. But then I say to them, if you come to where I had to do my apprenticeships, where, mate, they were brutal. You know, I'm winning. Imagine you won, best DJ. You know, you're coming out of that club, and you're like, you're shit. You're rubbish. I got that all the way. You're shit. I'm like, I won. Yeah. No, but you're shit. Because they know what your full potential is. And you might have won that night, but you weren't. You know, like me and you could go out tonight and smash. The club could go nuts. But I'm watching you think, you played shit tonight. The crowd went nuts, but I know you're far better than that. You know, it wasn't, you know, or you could play a set that I think's amazing. The crowd might not have gone for it, but as, you know, knowing that they just weren't ready. You know, there's two ways of judging. So I had this brutal judging, but they also got my back as well. So, and I'm happy I had all that because it made me a lot tougher. And so going into the rave scene was a piece of piss because I'd gone from sound system, carrying boxes, building boxes, you know, finding houses, doing our own flyers, standing outside, doing everything for 20 pence. You know, never made no money. I think we got one photo where we made 20 quid one night, you know, like profit, you know, and it's like holding it up. I think that's about 1984 or 5. But most of the time it's running it. But I learned, made all my mistakes. Going into the rave scene, you just turn up with your records. Boom. You know, I'm there, I found it, rave music, it's all 4 to the floor, you know, adding me little bits of break beat. I loved it. You know, it was like instant love. Yeah. The two names, you know, like I said, because I was doing WIBS under Dr. K, the opportunity to go on Fantasy come up, and I thought, how am I going to do this under the same name? It's going to piss off. And I've told this story a million times. At the time, I had 2 T-shirts that I'd bought a while back. I think I bought them in Carnaby Street. One was a Batman logo, and instead of the Batman, it said Hype. And one was a Nike logo, and instead of Nike, it said Hype. And I didn't buy them because I wanted to call myself. I just liked the T. But I thought, what can I call myself? And I thought, well, if I call myself Hype, I got 2 T-shirts that got the name on it. So then I started doing Fantasy as Hype, and I didn't do WIBS for much longer. But at first, I was doing the 2. Yeah. And then the DMC was around that time. So I was still Dr. K, because I was known as Dr. K in them competitions, because Slipmat and Lime, I met them before I knew about the rave, you know, they were in one of the heats I was in. And a couple of years later, when I was in the rave scene and I was doing Fantasy, I don't know what year, but Limelights, Tottenham Court, is it Limelights?
Tottenham Court Road,
well,
yeah.
No, is it
no, it's up the West End, yeah.
I went there to watch DMC. And I see Slipmat and Lime. Well, Slipmat, I don't know if Lime was there, but Slipmat was there. And he's like, and we're chatting, and he's like, oh, so what are you up to nowadays? I said, oh, I do a bit of pirate radio and blah. And he goes, I said, I go under the name DJ Hype. And he went, it's you. He goes, he said, I heard this guy on the radio. No one could fathom, like, where's, you know, never heard of him, no history. Yet this guy's shit hot.
Bam, straight in,
but he knew me as Dr. K. So then we started chatting, you know, then I started doing more parties, you know. Orange at the Rocket was one of the Fantasy FM used to do a story about it because Fantasy was only it was shut. It was like a year, wasn't it? 91.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get a license, and they used to do a story. I think it was every other week, and I'd do a story on a Saturday. And I don't know how I got my first booking for Orange, but I'm actually playing there this Saturday, so I'm going to ask Chris, how did you get? But the first booking I did there, I did it, and he was like, I want to make you resident. And so I used to do both of those as my residencies, and I loved it all. Because of what I did, if I'm honest with myself, probably musically, I wasn't necessarily that great. My select, you know, I wasn't this deep. I just liked cutting up. So as if it sounded good cutting up, I'm doing it. And I remember I used to cut up tunes, and I used to have the bouncers standing behind me at Rocket, like they're my dancers. They all loved it. And we got a big, I don't know if he's still around, Chopper. He went on to do bit parts in acting, you know. So I used to do those two, and that Hype thing started roller coasting, obviously doing Kicking Records. Yeah. That's how I met you, bringing in white labels. I don't know if it was the Exorcist or the B. So the whole music side now developed. So I'm doing I'm A&R man for Kicking Records with Peter Harris. That was set up for me. People don't always know that.
I never knew that. So they set Kicking Up.
Well, Shut Up and Dance, licensed 5678 to Peter Harris.
I remember, yeah.
And it was on GTI, which was his label. Then he kept, at this point, I'm still working in a warehouse, Burberry's in Hackney. I'm on the radio, but I'm not earning any income from DJing. And I'm dabbling in production. I used to play little demos on Fantasy. One of them was The Exorcist, prior to, be all the breakbeat, but none of the keyboards, because I couldn't play. So then one day, Smiley phones me up and he goes, I'm going to get you this job. He goes, this geezer's going to phone you. Just say yes. It's an A&R man. I said, what the fuck is an A&R man? And he goes, mate, you'll be wicked at it. Don't worry. Just do it. And I said, I don't know what that is. You just listen to it, mate. Trust me. So then Peter Harris phones me up and he's like, because he was put out 5678. They didn't want to do anything else with him, but he kept phoning them. What do you think of this music? What do you think of that? Well, like for advice. And they're like, you need an A&R man, and recommended me. And I said at the time, I didn't even know what an A&R man was. But I took the job, went and sat with him, and he's like, I'm going to set up this new label, Kicking. I want you to be there. Like he trusted them so much that they recommended me. Like if you was going on, I go, well, what does he know about it? What, has he ever done it before? Like nothing. He was just like, yep. He trusted me more than I didn't even know what I was doing, if I'm honest. He gave me a bag of cassettes, goes, go away and listen to these, tell me if anything's good. I didn't like anything on it, except for one guy, the scientist. But even that, it was just techno kind of vibe. And he kind of mentioned him to me anyway, saying that he would like me to possibly do something with this guy. And I said, he's all right. And then I went and met him. He was living with his mum. And it was, he was 17. And I remember I brought the Exorcist, my demo, because I had a sampling keyboard. It used to be a Casio FZ1, but mine was a rip-off. It was exactly the same, but cheaper. I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically a Casio FZ1 Pirate. And Phil, scientist, had a SQ80 and Sonic. And I went round his house, we connected the two, and I played him what I'd been doing, and I said, like, play some keyboards over it, kind of give him a bit of direction. Not that he needed much. He's a very gifted guy. So he played all the music. And then I think within a week after, we were thinking, what can we make next? And I leant on his keyboard, and all you heard was bzzz, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And he says, the keyboard. So he was making like a B sound. Now, I don't take hard, like LSD or any of that, but I've heard people tell me about when they're out on a trip and they felt like, spiders was in my hearing, right? And I was saying to him, imagine, because the more keys you hit, the more bees. So you could have a swarm and I was like, imagine you're in a rave, buzzing, and you hear fucking swarms of bees coming, that's gonna fuck. So that was the intention. So we made the bee, I think, it was about a week after we made The Exorcist. The bee we made from scratch. But The Exorcist was my own demo. And then those came out and were very successful songs. Gave me more confidence. But I didn't want to be the front man.
Yeah, that's that.
I wanted to just be a producer.
Yeah, do you know what's going through my head? He's like...
Who knows? Who knows what goes through your head?
But in hindsight, I feel they should have been DJ Hype and the Scientist, because what you're telling me...
No, but that was my choice.
That was your...
I can't blame... I regret it because I wanted to be this cool producer.
I've always wondered about that, because like when you used to bring the records round to the shop, to all the record shops, and that's how we met. You gave me the white labels. Your excitement and energy. See how you, like, now you can explain your energy and what it was then, but then you was a wildfire of energy as a human when you was younger. You used to bring them around.
I'm still human.
To the shop. No, you're still human.
No, I know what you mean.
Younger, right? And I remember you were just like, you believed in this stuff, right? And because Scientist was 3 or 4 years above me in the same school, and always, like, as far as I've been concerned, there is much DJ Hype records because
oh no, that's why we ended up parting company, because what happened was, he's very good at the keyboards. I'm very good at the breakbeat. So the two styles fuse very well. And at the time, I'd be sitting there in the office and you'd have Peter Harris on the phone talking to everyone like it's his invention, like putting me and him together. Then you got scientists, because I wanted to be the cool producer. That's what I thought. In hindsight, now I know, put your name on the fucking front in big, no one reads the small print.
I get that, yeah.
But at the time, I wasn't bothered. And I also thought we're a team. So he would go out, get interviewed, and they'd be like, oh, you know, we see your keyboard influence. And he was friends with one of the keyboard player from Depeche Mode. Like, he's a very, very talented guy. He could sit there with that SQ and go, this is how Adamski done this. This is how thingy. He could think of sounds. He'd tell me, I think of a sound, then I make it. You know, like nowadays people do that. But back then, and so putting the two together, we worked well. Then what happened, you know, he's having a bit of success. Then his mum went back to Greece and he was living in the GTI Records in Ladbroke Grove, Westbourne Park. Upstairs, like basement was a studio. His office was above it. Like there was a shop front that someone else, I can't remember what the shop was, but below was the recording studio. Upstairs is an office, and the top floor, Phil was living. But he's 17. We're having success now. He's starting to pop pills. He's got friends around him. You know, I'm the techno overlord. He's starting to believe his own bullshit. And I'm watching that. And what started happening is we done the Exorcist, the B, and we done Sound Clash Champion Sound Kick Squad. And if you look at that Kick Squad tune, there's another guy, Ralph Rupert. They again, if this was now, I'd be like, he ain't going down as an artist. He just helped slightly mix it down towards the end. He was no part of the writing or creation. But again, it was all love. And but those tunes were my ideas and concept. And but we're working together. It's his ideas as well. I'm not like, you know, it's all me at all. It was a combined force. Then all of a sudden, we're now working on songs where, you know, we start a tune, I'll see you tomorrow. I come back, he go, oh, I added some bits to it. When I listen, it's like a different song. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's like a totally, and he's going into this weird direction that I'm saying to him, not that you shouldn't do it, but we were working towards doing an album. And when you do your album, that's when you can be a bit more free, you know, but at the moment, let's stick with what, but he wouldn't listen. And then the person that is your ally, that is shaping you musically, now becomes your enemy because you're 17, you've got all these hangers on, you know, he's earning £600 a PA and believing his own bullshit. And then, so I got Peter Harris, like I said, on the phone, telling everyone as if everything's his idea. And then I've got scientists going in magazines going where they say, oh, you're very techno influenced. Yeah, I know. And there's a lot of breakbeat and reggae. Oh, yeah, I'm into that. No, oh, yeah, that's hype. So I'm thinking, fuck you both. And then I remember I told Peter Harris, stick it, I'm gone. I told him, stick it. Then about a month later, I had Peter Harris phone me up. And I was very surprised at this because he's a big man. He's strong. He's not, I don't mean strong muscle. He's strong-willed. He's an intelligent guy. He's not an idiot. And I thought he'd be like, fine, you know, I'll move on. He phoned me up. I went up. He said he wants a meeting. I sat in his kitchen and he begged me to come back. His words were, I'm begging you to come back. I need you here. And I said, I can't do this. I can't. I don't trust it. I wasn't getting the money I deserved. You know, everything was just, you know, I don't regret doing it because, again, it was a learning curve. At the same time, I'd met Mark Ryder in DMC and I liked Mark, or I thought I did. Yeah. And so he was like, why don't you come Strictly Underground? He's like, and the sales pitch at the time was we'd be like a production team, me, him and his brother. Sounded all great. Then I went there and I found myself just making my own tunes and he's releasing them. And as soon as I went there, the first thing that happened, his brother Mike James told me he's leaving. So that's alarm bell, like your own brother's leaving, yeah? And then there wasn't no bad, I had no animosity towards him. I just felt like I'm just making a tune. This production team thing weren't happening. So then what happened at the time, when I was on Fantasy, when it'd been in different locations. And at one point, we were in, is it Abbey Road or Abbey Lane? Stratford, near the Bow Flyover, in a tower block. So one day, there used to be a sweet shop cafe kind of thing at the bottom. And I walked, you know, like when you do pirate, you can't tell anyone, you know. So I walked in there and the bloke, he walked out and he went, you just going up there or you just coming off? And I was like, And he went, no, don't worry, I'm not going to say nothing. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. But he was Danny Donnelly's dad. And he's like, oh, my son's got a record shop in Romford, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. And then one day, me and Chrome, we sit and said, should we go Romford? And we just went up and met Danny and Winston for the first time and was hanging out there. And I got real friendly with Danny at that time. And he said, why don't you do some music with me? So I kind of went from Strictly Underground to him, and I made Shot in the Dark. Now, before I made Shot in the Dark, when I was at Strictly Underground, I was working on a similar track that I never finished, and I've left. It's my tune, nothing to do with them. I wasn't signed contractually. They never give me no money. And when I did Shot in the Dark, he released a fucking tune called Shot in the Back or whatever mix, and it had legal. I was fucking fuming. That geezer cannot stand him. I remember 94 when I won Best DJ at, was it Elevation? I can't remember. My first ever drum and bass award. And he was, again, you better keep him over there, mate. Because that fucker, I despise him. He's a little sneak. I really liked him at first, but he showed his true colours. Even I remixed 6 Million Ways to Die for Uncle 22 and Navigator. Yeah, I didn't charge him any money. I did it out of love. And then Andy C licensed it to Ram Records. And then later down the line, Mark Ryder signed the publishing and backdated it and tried to sue. And I don't know if he did, but basically there was a lawsuit, you know, like as if he owned it. It's like, you didn't own it then. You know, like, it was all cloak and not even needed. You don't have to be, you know, like I said about me, I'm not, you know, like you can be, there's business and then there's taking the piss. We're all supposed to be, but him and Danny were very rivalry at that time. But I stayed with Danny at that point. So I went from there to there to there. And that whole production thing I was starting to enjoy. Then I started making a few more tunes than I needed to give Danny. So then I started doing Ganja Records, which wasn't meant to be a label even. It was just my little chuck out. Then I started, me and Danny, by then, you know, like we're friends now, but when I look back, we spoke about it in lockdown. I think, you know, like you're young, you know, I've got an ego, he's got an ego, you know, he might not see it this way, but at the time, I felt like I wasn't being appreciated. I was initially. I just felt like I don't need to be there.
Yeah, it's youthfulness, isn't it? It's youthful.
Well, it's the fire in me, and you know, like, but I do respect him, and do. He's self-made. Like when I first met him, he was about 19 with a Jag.
Yeah,
you know. But sometimes he can be a bit too business, and
Kev, do you know
that's
what
why
I think?
Successful.
Right, when I think back to your youthful energy in that first meeting you, 90, 91, 92, like you were so full of just the music, this tune there, that tune, produce this, do this, and it sounds like in that short space of time you learnt so quickly how much, especially with the kicking scientist thing, how you feel about Strictly Underground. They used your youthful energy, and you're like, well, bam.
I think at the time I saw it very much that way. As I've got older, it was probably
it's a
business.
learning curve.
No, but part of it is business. You know, like, and what it was for me was it never made no sense, because to me, you know, like if I sign somebody and I'm doing a good job for them, they're gonna tell everybody. And then they're going to bring more people to me. You know, like if you want a successful business, you don't want everyone going, oh, he's a fucking cunt, he ripped me off, I got no money, I didn't get counted to, which was more Peter Harris. You know, he was very good at licensing. I got minimal money. And maybe it's my own fault, because like I said, I come from a very poor background. I was accepting like a $3,000 buyout. You know, like I just want, because I didn't trust it. I just want that money, because I don't think I'm going to get no money. And then I remember when he passed away, someone else took over the label and phoned me up. And I was saying to them, all these compilations, like, I didn't understand how much money was made out of, he was very good at licensing to compilation albums globally. He'd be on the phone all day. So all that money, I never saw a penny. I don't know. I think Scientist got some, but I don't think he probably never got what he should have. So working with Mark Ryder, it wasn't, I wouldn't say he ripped me off. I just left because I felt like what we were planned to do didn't happen. But then when he went and did he did a shit version of Shot in the Dark, called it the Shot in the Back mix. Like I'm like, wait, that's my tune one, well, our tune, and two, I'd left you. So what do you give a shit? It's just being a bitch. So then that made me very animosity to him. With Danny Donnelly, it was more just, I think, egos. You know, I'd outgrown it. I'm having more success now. I want to do my own thing. And I also thought, I'm sick of working for other people, and I just want to be my own. But that way, I can't rip myself off. You know, I'm going to be honest. And I rather make £1 and know that's my pound than you make £1,000 and I'm getting 50 pence out of it, and I should be grateful. So I started, originally when I was still with Danny, I was doing Ganja just as a little side thing. Then when I parted company with him, it was still a side thing. Then I made friends with Pascal, and Pascal had Face Records, and we just used to, I originally met Sponge, Johnny Jungle. I didn't even know Pascal. I just thought Johnny Jungle was Johnny Jungle. And he used to bring out Pascal. He would sit there. He's still quiet, but we had a good chat today. But at that time, the more I got to know him, I realized he's doing more. It's not like Sponge is the face of it, and he's the mouth and that, but my man is the producer. He runs the label. You know, he's the brains more. They were still a good partnership, but then they parted. But me and Pascal used to talk on the phone and just help each other. I don't own your label, you don't, but we'd help each other. And then we started getting closer, you know, and I started having a bit more success with Ganja than what I was planning to do. Then it got to the stage where I had majors wanting to sign me, and I didn't really know what to do. I wanted to still be me. I didn't want to sign, so I had this. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done what I did. Cause I remember Smiley telling me a couple of years later, you should have just said yes to them. Whatever the major said, just say yes. Don't mean you can do it. They'll just give you money. The worst they can do is drop you. You know, like if they're advanced, they can only recoup through music. You know, but I'd be like, I don't want to sell out. I don't want a big campaign. I want to be real. But it's like, if you want to be real, why are you signing to a major for then? I didn't use what they had. So I was trying to keep it as real as I thought. If I sign a non-exclusive deal, I can have my one foot in the underground where I'm still doing my Ganja label, which then evolved into True Players. That's 96. And have my foot in the mainstream with the Ganja crew. And the Ganja crew originally was just me on my own. I just made that name up as a pseudonym for a release I gave to Pascal. I used to do ones as Dope Style. Like, a lot of my Ganja stuff didn't even have, I think the first couple didn't even have my name on it, if I'm correct. Dope Style, you know.
Kev, how comes you never worked with? You was with Kickin', you was with Strictly Underground, you was with Suburban Bass. Why didn't you make records with Sharp and Dance?
Did you not hear the beginning of the interview?
No. In the latter 80s, you said you was like, no.
No, in
the rave era.
Smiley, not PJ. Smiley. You know, like I'm known as you're hard, you know, to please. He's worse. With him, it's just
man.
And me and him would clash heads. So when he was Shut Up and Dance, I didn't want to be. I love him as a friend. I would DJ, like we go on tour. I did Japan 1991, first time I ever went Japan. Me and them.
Yeah.
We toured the whole of Japan. We was on TV. We was on Okinawa Island opening a shopping center in my pajamas. I remember we didn't even know we were in jogging bottoms. My friends. And I didn't want to be with them.
Yeah, it's mad.
Carl used to say to me, you should be doing what you're doing. And they do. We did make a tune years later, Reclaim the Streets, which is like a breakbeat kind of thing.
Because it is mad in a way, because obviously you was referring to the latter 80s with what they was doing in their room. But my head is just thinking, maybe it's rose-tinted glasses. I wonder what it'd have been like if they'd have done a 92 or 93
we would have made
tracks
it.
Together,
we could make tunes together, but I said we clash heads too much. And we don't need each other in that studio. But at that time, they were a massive influence to me. And I credit them more than me in any way. Like musically, they broke every boundary possible. You know, like they broke down the walls. You know, someone like Raggatons would never have been doing rave music. They were reggae. They're in Unity reggae sound. They're not rave, but they own it. It's not like, oh, they were into acid and then they put their voice on a tune. No, Carl was sampling.
Do you know
them.
what it is that earlier you said about £10 to get in? They made it cool to make rugged music.
Yeah, no, but that's where I come from. I'm not the technical. I don't buzz off of a EQ'd snare. You know, nothing wrong with that. But what, you know, like, to me, there's people that make music that's very technically advanced, and you know, like, it sounds like fat. You know, listen to that kick, listen to that snare. But the song's bland.
It might not have any soul or rugged.
Then you got people like them that is vibes people. You know, the whole early jungle. You know, when we talk about hardcore jungle, like pre-jungle, when jungle's kind of there, but it's not an established scene yet. That development, you know, like where people were just making all kind of madness. With them, they opened doors. I mean, some people might disagree, but I find it very hard for you to show me different. Where, you know, I credit them and probably Reinforced Records as the two labels that were putting out, and not even necessarily at the same time, because Reinforced was slightly after. They were working at the same time for a while, but I'm sure because Shut Up and Dance were doing what they were doing, and I remember Reinforced, Mr. Kirk's Nightmare, Ian, he doesn't make the tunes, he used to come, I used to love the guy, they dropped off one copy to this pirate station, and I don't even think anyone really looked at it first. Then people started just giving it a play, and then it became very popular. And there used to be a distribution. They were both using the distribution company. I can't remember what this distribution company began with a P. No, it began with a P. P. They were, you know, Seven Sisters Road going towards Finsbury Park. It's all like a trendy thing now. Anyway, I was still with Peter Harris, and I remember Peter Harris knew they were going under because he had the same distributor, and he was phoning Reinforced and Shut Up and Dance to say, get your shit out of there, they're going to go under. They didn't listen, they went under. And I think, again, I might be wrong, but I know Shut Up and Dance lost a hell of a lot of money. I think they lost, I can't remember what out, they lost a hell of a lot, you know, like, and so did I think Reinforced. I can't remember if it was Mr. Kirk's Nightmare or not, but they lost a lot of money. And, you know, like, because back then, you know, you get your records pressed up, you now owe the pressing plant. You haven't sold them yet. And if you sell them and you don't get paid, how are you paying? You know, so you're left in debt. But those two labels, for me, were the most influential. And obviously Smiley, because he was my best friend. And I'd go around there. You know, I'm always influenced. But I used to always be criticising the technicals. Like, it's too raw. I'm like, the mix down here. And he'd be like, oh, what do you say? Well, Shut Up and Dance don't sell records because of mix downs. And I was like, mate, I'm your friend. I'm not. You know, we actually had a bit of a strained relationship even then, because I'm going around to see Carl, my friend. I'm not going to see Shut Up and Dance or Smiley or PJ. They would call each other. You know, like me and Earl. I don't call Earl Daddy Earl. And Earl don't call me, all right, Hype. Because we're friends. You know, I know you as Billy Bunter. If your name was just DJ Bunter, yeah, I'd probably be calling you Bunter. Yeah, because I didn't grow up with you. You know. Yeah, of course. So I'd go around to see them. You know, then what happened is, you know, you're saying why we didn't work together. Later down the line, there was this transition where, also everything I did to him, to Smiley, everybody's shit. You know, like, it's very hard to please him musically. Yeah, he turned down Sweet Harmony. He could have put that out. He threw it out the door. What's the other one? Not Tonight. You're not coming in. He could have released that. There's record. People would come to give him music to release. You know, as a business, of course you take that. But he's like, nah, shit, because everything with him was he's like a twisted genius. You know, so his creativity was very original. Even now, like, he doesn't release stuff, but in the lockdown, he'd be playing this really, I don't know where it fits in. I loved it, and I thought he was going to release it all, but he's never has. And now he's immigrated, because I actually hit him up the other day, going, mate, send me the music. And he's like, what stuff? I said, just everything, because I find him very inspiring. If you go back to his Shut Up and Dance albums, you know, like, there's topics that are very relevant and still relevant, you know. and Reinforced. It was just their style I loved. So those two really vibed me. Years later with Smiley, it was he started calling me superstar DJ and liking what I did. I mean, when I did the Exorcist, I said I made it with the scientists, and the first person I played it to was Carl Smiley. So what do you think? And he went, it's all right, sell a couple of thousand. And I went to Peter Harris, and he went, what's it? I said, yeah, it's all right, sell a couple of thousand. That's kind of what he said. And it ended up being the biggest song MRIB, I think 1990 or 1991. I can't remember having the chart in my room at the time, photocopy of it, because he was very good at marketing and
it's stuff. A classic, isn't it? It's an absolute classic.
But these days, you still can't work with Smiley because the different Smiley is so in his own. Like I had this conversation with him in lockdown again because he would always play me his stuff. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And me and Earl are literally, we have the same. It's like our brain is totally in tune to each other. Whatever my criticism is going to be, he would be, or his, we think the same. So, like, you're playing me your song. What do you think? And I go, it's cool, but I reckon that vocal could be this, or the snare, or just something. And he go, okay. Never. And then in lockdown, I said to him, why do you ask me what I think? Because you've never, ever gone and come back and go, you know what, I listened to what you said, and I changed that, and it sounds much better. I said, I don't know why. Like, play me it, but why are you asking me what I think? Because whenever I give you my input, you don't want to listen. And I know that if we were creatively working he's like a little mad scientist. Like, I can collaborate with people quite easily, as long as they've got some ideas. But with him, he's not listening. He doesn't need to work. The only criticism I say is mix downs. Like an engineer to get the fattest, but the writing, he's in his own. Yeah. He's like a twisted genius. I think he's made more of an impact than people credit him for.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
But part of that is down to his own. He doesn't tell the story. I think I tell it better than him. And PJ's quite quiet. I remember. This is a funny one, Transmission.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And I think they'd done a real early set there. They don't play it that much. And then I think I was on, I can't remember, anyway, Rat Pack was on. And then at the end of their set, they brought PJ and they're talking, and then they played their own mix of Raving, was it Raving? I don't know, I can't remember if it was Raving, I'm Raving. It was one of their classics.
Right.
I went fucking ballistic. I was screaming and feeling, how are you doing? And then I went backstage and I was talking to, can't remember I think it was Lipmaster Mark, just saying, like, don't mean it horribly, I love them, they're nice guys, and they weren't doing nothing out of malice, but I'm like, that's Shut Up and Dance, man. They don't really play nowhere. They're like the foundation of this shit, or a very big part of the foundation. And you're there covering their tune with them. But I was having a go at PJ. He was all relaxed. I said, how the fuck are you letting that happen? That's your,
Yeah. I booked them before for an event at, sorry mate, at Electric, and we were speaking, and they was really like perfectionate about what they was going to do, and when they do go out and perform, it's like a really special moment for them.
But they should be earning a living, like, to me, that they wasn't, they're not part of that rave circuit the way they should be. And when I'm watching other acts, basically PA, like, using their music with their permission, they weren't doing it. Like, again, I'm not having a go at Rat Pack personally, but because it's my best friends, and I know, and to be fair, I spoke with Mark. It is Lip Mark. When I was younger, I always thought Lipmaster Mark was the MC. Because Lipmaster. And I'd always go, and then I found out, no, it's the other way around. Everson Allen, I found out in the last few years, he's got brothers I went to school with. I didn't know he was their brothers. Greenaways, Joseph Greenaway, I can't remember all the others. They were like all a year above each other, and one of them was in my year. He told me that.
It's mad how small the world is.
I get on really well with him now. And he said to me at the last Orange, he goes, I really like this new nice hype, And I went, was I that bad back in the day? And he went, yeah, you was, And I said to someone else, I think it was Bailey, I went, was I that bad? And they're like, mate, you're hard to deal with.
Yeah.
In my old age, I'm trying to be a bit more mellow. and a bit more.
Well, like age teaches you that.